Hi, I'm Mark. This is Mark's Tech Vlogs on YouTube, and today I thought I'd bring you a video that's going to be a little bit different. And so this is a smart home tour. So if you guys have been around on this channel for a while, you'll know that I've reviewed quite a lot of smart home stuff. And the reason I've done that is because it's technology that I own, not stuff that I've picked up to make a review and then get rid of again. And I've got to a point now where I think I've got all the right devices for what I want. And so I thought I'd bring you guys a bit of a tour and explain what I've used to get my smart home set up. So let me start by talking about what I wanted when I decided I was going to get some smart home stuff. The real motivator for it was move into a house that just didn't have anything. It didn't have a thermostat, I needed to buy light bulbs and all that kind of thing. And of course, light bulbs are really easy to pick up and you get really cheaply, but I wanted to kind of make my home smart as I went along. For me, the other important thing when trying to get my smart home set up was that I wanted stuff that would work with Apple. This meant I was looking to see which devices would go into my home app, but also which things I could control with Siri. For the most part, I've managed to achieve this. There have been a couple of times I've had to come up with workarounds, but I'll talk about some of those things as I go through this video. So let's start off by talking about lighting. For lighting in my home, I use Philips Hue bulbs. Pretty much throughout my entire home, I've got Philips Hue bulbs in everything, including in the bathroom and the kitchen. This means that I've got a selection of bulbs, including the screw-ins, the push-ins, and the GU10 bulbs. One thing worth noting about the GU10s is they've got a slightly thicker base than most others. This means they don't always fit in all light fittings. Practically what this meant was that I had to change the light fitting in my kitchen when I picked these up. It's also worth saying that the difference in cost between the coloured hue bulbs and the warm white bulbs is quite a big difference. This meant that initially I just went for warm white bulbs everywhere, although I have since put a coloured bulb in the living room. In all honesty though, whilst a coloured bulb is a nice novelty, I do find myself using white lighting most of the time. The other great thing about these bulbs is that they're LED bulbs, and so they're incredibly cheap to run. And it easily goes into the Apple Home app as well. Within the Home app, you can of course categorise everything into rooms. On top of that, I've also picked up a couple of accessories to go with my Hue lights. One of these accessories is the Hue dimmer switch. This is a really simple device that simply acts as a light switch for your bulbs. It does however have a few options. There's of course an on and an off button, but there's also a make it brighter and a make it dimmer button. On top of that, the on button can be programmed so that one press makes it dim and a second press makes it bright. This is particularly good in the bathroom for using it overnight. The other accessory that I've got a couple of are the Hue motion sensors. These are essentially motion sensors you put in a room that pick up motion. You program these in the Hue app. For example, if you walk into the kitchen, they will turn on the lights. The other nice thing about these is they can pick up how much daylight is going on in the room. This means they won't come on unnecessarily, but only when it's dark enough for you to need a light. You can also program these so at different times of the day, they come on with different levels of brightness. This is particularly good in the bathroom late at night. The other feature built into these sensors that they don't really talk about is that they seem to have temperature sensors built in. This means that when you add them into your Home app on your iPhone, you can see the temperature of that particular room. I'm not really sure if this is a particularly useful feature, but it's quite nice to know the temperature of those different rooms. The other thing I really like about the Hue bulbs is that you can set them to go on or off based on your location. This means for me that the light switch in my living room, where my front door is on the opposite side of the room. So if I get home late at night and it's dark, the lights will have come on because my phone will have told Hue to do that. The other thing you can do is you can link them into IFTTT. This means that I've got a recipe set up so that at midnight every night it turns off all lights. This is good because it means if I've forgotten to do that, I'm not going to be paying for lighting throughout the night. Finally, it's worth saying that the Hue lights work with Siri. This means that I can turn them on or off from my wrist on my Apple Watch or just by using my phone. Next, let's talk about heating. For my heating, I use Hive Smart Heating. This is a service that needs to be installed by a gas professional, but once it's installed and up and running, it works really easily. Essentially, the Hive app lets you do a variety of things. Some of these things include setting things like holiday modes or adjusting your temperature when you're not at home, or even just boosting your heating for a while. The other thing you can do is you can set schedules, and these features are beginning to get a bit smarter so it can predict when it needs to turn the heating on based on when you want it to be a certain temperature, which means it essentially learns your home and how quickly or slowly your home heats up. If you don't want to use that feature, you can simply set temperature settings throughout the day based on a different day of the week. This means if you're always up at 6 o'clock on a Monday morning, it can be nice and warm for 6 on a Monday morning, but if you tend to lay in on Saturday and it doesn't need to be hot until 9, you can do that as well. Of course, you can also adjust this when you're not at home. This is particularly good if you go on a holiday and you wonder if you've actually remembered to turn your heating on. It's also worth mentioning that Hive do a variety of other accessories, so they do sensors and they do light bulbs and a few other things. The reason I didn't go with Hive for light bulbs is simply that they don't go into the Apple Home app. This means if you want to control your Hive devices, you must use the Hive app. This also means that you can't use it with Siri, however there is an Alexa skill. The only upgrade I've made to Hive since I got it is to buy the Hive 360 hub. This was an upgrade to the original hub and connected via Wi-Fi rather than Ethernet, which meant you could put it in different places in the room. On top of that, it also has a kind of always listening feature where it listens out for dog barks and glass breaking and fire alarms and sends you a notification with a recording of that sound. I've done a proper review of the Hive 360 on this channel as well if you want to check it out and decide if it's worth an upgrade or not. Next, let's talk about sound. For me, music is massively important, and after trying a whole variety of ways of doing multi-room audio on a budget, I finally caved in and invested in a Sonos One system recently. The Sonos Ones are essentially a system that allows you to do multi-room audio really easily using AirPlay 2, and also have Amazon's Alexa built in. I've got 4 of these dotted around the house. I've got one in the kitchen that acts for the dining room and the kitchen, one in the living room, one in the bedroom, and one in the office. On top of that, I also have a D-Link My Music Everywhere hooked up to a speaker in the bathroom, mostly because I knew that I wasn't going to want to play audio in the bathroom as well as somewhere else at the same time. This means I can send audio to the bathroom if I want to, but it doesn't have a really expensive speaker in it. Beyond sounding really good, the Sonos Ones also have a voice assistant built in. This is particularly good because it means you can add things to the shopping list throughout the house or use it to turn on or off your lights. And actually, I tend to find that the Amazon voice assistant works better for me than Siri a lot of the time, just because it's in the room and can be activated without picking up a device. Of course, as an Apple user, there are some challenges with using the Amazon Assistant, especially when it comes to using native apps on your phone like reminders. I talked a bit about this in my Echo Dot review, but essentially I've got some IFTT stuff set up so that when I add something to my Todoist shopping list, it adds it onto the reminders on my phone. Next to smart home, let's talk about TV. Now, I don't have a fancy TV that's got an app and all sorts of things built in, but I have made it smart with a couple of pretty cool accessories. The first is the Apple TV 4th generation. Other than the occasional DVD player usage, the Apple TV is pretty much the only thing I ever use to watch television on. The apps I tend to use the most are things like Netflix, but also Plex, which I've got hooked up to my network attached storage and a load of stuff on that. In addition to that, I also use the TV player app quite a lot if I ever want to watch live television. I tend to set the sound output on this to my living room Sonos so I get really good sound from my television. But one thing I do find is that sometimes my Virgin Hub 3 isn't quite up to scratch, and so sometimes there's a bit of a lag between the audio coming out the Sonos and the video playing on the television. A simple play-pause button pressed a couple of times seems to fix this. The second gadget I've got hooked up to my TV is a Logitech Harmony Hub. This is a brilliant little bit of kit because it essentially lets you use an app on your phone as a control for your television and your DVD player and all your speakers. It's a little bit tricky to set up, but once it's up and running, it's great not having to reach for a remote and just being able to use my phone instead. Whilst you can add the Apple TV to it, and I have done, I tend to use the Apple TV app itself for controlling my Apple TV, just because the app's a little bit better. So the final question for this video is perhaps to say, well, how does all of this work together? On a day-to-day basis, I tend to use the Apple Home app for controlling my lights, although I quite often use voice control for those as well. For music, I tend to throw music from my Apple Music app using AirPlay 2 to the Sonos devices, and for television, I use the Harmony app to control my remotes. Typically for heating, the schedule's at a point now where I don't really need to do much to it, but if I do need to boost it, I can use the Alexa skill for that as well. The best thing about a lot of this is that the things like the Apple TV remote, not the Harmony remote, and things like Home and Hue, there's remotes for the Apple Watch, and so a lot of the time between a voice assistant and the watch, I don't even have to reach for my phone to do this. On top of that, I found that IFTTT is great for streamlining some of the apps that don't always talk to each other, and so I've got some great recipes set up to help with that. I hope you guys found this video really interesting. It's a little bit different from my channel, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like more videos like this, then just comment with them below. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel as well. If you're thinking about getting a smart home setup yourself, or you're thinking about different accessories, do pop questions below and I will try and answer those. I'll see you guys again soon.